Get out of here. Hurry. Before those people find us. Saying this, a young shop assistant pulled my arm and pushed me out of the store. She seemed to be a part-timer. The girl frequently checked inside the store as she led me out. Today, I had come to a restaurant. It was to meet my precious daughter, who my ex-husband took custody of when we divorced. I couldn't hide my anger at having this rare chance to see her only once a month disrupted by a stranger, a shop clerk. Hey, what's the meaning of this? I tried to shake off the clerk, who had suddenly grabbed my arm when I noticed her hand trembling. Please calm down and listen. Actually, that parent and child are. My name is Rebecca, a 37-year-old mother of an only daughter. I'm divorced. My daughter, Christina, lives with my ex-husband Ned, who is financially well off. Christina is now 13 years old. I was dating Ned, an older man, during my student days and got married to him at the age of 22 after graduating from university. We met at a mixer. Invited by a close friend, I went on a whim and met Ned there. He was moderately handsome. He had a calm demeanor due to his age, and I was charmed by his thoughtfulness and smile when he laughed. We all exchanged message contacts, but Ned was the first to message me. I really had fun today. Thanks to you, Rebecca, it was a meaningful time. Thank you. I still remember how excited I felt just from that message. It didn't take long for Ned and me to start dating. He always took the lead on dates, and above all, we had fun times that made us both smile. The proposal wasn't anything flashy like a flash mob or renting out a church, but at a hotel during a trip. When I went to report our marriage to Ned's parents' home, his mother seemed like a very nice person. The wedding was a small affair with just family. I didn't like flashy weddings either, so it was very comfortable for me. His mother also seemed very happy at that time, and I felt happy thinking that we were becoming a family. Even after marriage, Ned was very reliable, and our marital life progressed smoothly. At the age of 23, we were blessed with a child. I wanted to prioritize our child, so after discussing it with my husband, I quit my job and settled into a calm pregnancy life at Ned's parents' house. Pregnancy was harder than I thought. Morning sickness was severe, and as my belly grew, my back and legs started hurting. I felt it was right to quit my job while pregnant. I truly respected all women who work while pregnant. The early stages of pregnancy went smoothly at my in-laws' house because my mother-in-law was truly happy about my pregnancy. Take care of yourself and have a healthy baby, Rebecca. It's better not to eat raw food or caffeine. It's not good for the baby. She would say, always consider it. I helped at the restaurant my mother-in-law ran whenever I felt well. Things changed once I got used to the tough pregnancy life and found out the baby's gender. The doctor says it's likely a girl. Oh, is that so? I've been thinking it's a boy. I really want the child to take over the restaurant. A girl can't do that. From that day, my mother-in-law stopped being considerate and started treating me poorly. She even began saying things like, "Next time, have a boy." Before the child was even born. Ned felt the same as his mother, and he became colder to me from that time. He was clearly disappointed that it was a girl. The rest of the pregnancy was painful. I had to be considerate of more than just my belly. I had to be mindful of my mother-in-law and Ned as well. Then my lovely daughter was born. What a cute child. Thank you for being born. I was so happy that I couldn't stop crying. However, after leaving the hospital and returning to my in-laws' house. Well, next time have a boy. We really need a son to take over the restaurant. Tell me as soon as your period starts again. She said without paying any attention to my daughter I was holding. I had been prepared for this, but I didn't expect such a reaction even after seeing her first grandchild. I didn't know how to react to my mother-in-law's utter disinterest, so I glanced at Ned. That's right. Considering the restaurant, we need a son. Next time, have a boy," he said, nodding smugly. What was this man talking about? He didn't intend to take over the restaurant himself since he worked at a company. Why was he insisting that only our child must take over? Although I knew the two of them wanted a son, treating our daughter as if she didn't exist was unjust. If a son was born, it was clear that they would treat him unfairly. With that in mind, I started considering divorce. I made the decision to leave the house to protect my child. I began searching for properties online the next day. I was serious about leaving this house. I had no one to rely on. However, I felt it was better to raise Christina on my own rather than continue living like this. Any place would have been fine, but I searched in the town where I had lived alone during my single days, as I was familiar with it. However, finding a house wasn't easy. The contract required information from my workplace, but no company would hire me with a newborn. The company I had previously worked for also declined, saying, "Come back when your child is a bit older." Still, I managed to find an apartment, packed our belongings, and was about to leave with my daughter when Ned happened to pass by and saw my smartphone screen. "Why are you looking for a house?" "I have no intention of moving. I'm planning to live with my daughter from now on. I can't bear living in this house any longer. Ned, please divorce me." I conveyed this. Then Ned said, "What are you talking about? You haven't had a boy yet. First of all, how will you manage living expenses? Are you planning to look for a job while holding a newborn? Do you think you can live with your child while being unemployed?" I had savings from before I quit my job and planned to get by until I found a full-time job with my remote work. "Fine. If you're set on this, I'll grant you a divorce. But there will be no division of property. If that's okay with you, then we can divorce." Finally, Ned agreed to the divorce, and I was happy to find the next house and prepare to leave. Then, on the day I was about to submit the divorce papers with Christina, I couldn't find her anywhere in the house. "Hey, where's Christina? Where did she go?" "I won't hand over Christina. It can't be helped, she's also a candidate to take over." "What do you mean? This isn't what we agreed on. If you have a complaint, then we'll have to settle this in court. If you think you can win a custody battle as an unemployed person, then try it." I clenched my back teeth at Ned's words. Ultimately, Ned and I couldn't agree, and it really came down to a court battle for custody. During that time, we couldn't get divorced, and both my mother-in-law and Ned didn't hide their malicious attitudes towards me. The custody battle took 6 months, and I lost. I had some savings, but moving had consumed a significant portion, and now I was unemployed. Given that it had only been 6 months, the options for childcare were limited, and my priority for finding work was low. Meanwhile, Ned was financially stable, and his mother was around during the day. Though she ran a restaurant, she wasn't in the kitchen or store all the time, and she could even take Christina to and from daycare. Considering Christina could live a carefree life, it was judged that Ned and his family were the better option. A public agency told me I was not suitable for raising Christina. And in despair, I was driven out of my in-laws' house. I sat in a small apartment, hugging my knees and crying for hours, then made a new resolution. I would secure a stable job and stabilize my life. Then, I would try again to regain custody of Christina. At first, my job hunting didn't go well, but I didn't give up because it was for Christina. After successfully getting a job offer in sales, I completed the training period and contacted my ex-husband Ned. "Now that I have a stable job in life, let me take our daughter." The court ruled in our favor. "If you want to change the custodian, you have to file again. Christina is trying hard to get used to this life, and here you are, always thinking about yourself. Well, I'll grant you visiting rights. Once a month should be enough." I couldn't respond to Ned's words initially. But for Christina, I continued to pay child support of $300 every month and looked forward to our monthly visits. Christina, who had been a baby, showed me new aspects of herself every month. While I was happy to see her grow, it was really frustrating not to be able to witness her growth by my side. The time I spent with Christina was truly a happy time for me. I didn't want to miss out on her growth anymore. I worked hard at my job just to see Christina, and my life became all about the moments I could spend with her. As time passed, Christina grew up quickly. She began to speak in 2 to 3 word sentences and started to walk unsteadily. By that time, my income had increased, and I told Ned that I wanted to take Christina back. However, Ned said, "You think you can provide a stable upbringing with that income? Are you planning to leave her somewhere all the time while you work?" At our house, even if I'm not there, my mother is, and she's popular at the restaurant because she's cute. Do you really want to provide a lonely life where she can only see you at night? What a terrible mother. He refused to transfer custody to me. When I called Ned to arrange a meeting with elementary school-aged Christina. I have time to see Christina this coming Sunday. I checked with Christina, and it seems she's made plans with friends that day and can't meet. Can we make it another day then? I have plans too, so this month, that day was the only possibility. Let's try next month, he said and refused. I wanted to see Christina. I didn't want to miss out on her growth. On the other hand, I also wondered what Christina thought. She was no longer just a cute toddler. Her own will was becoming clear, and she was entering a rebellious phase. Would she want to see a mother who hadn't been able to raise her properly? I was also plagued by this anxiety. I thought, she's at the age where she wants to play with friends. It can't be helped. But from that day, my visits with Christina gradually became irregular and less frequent. The scheduled dates were often not kept due to last-minute excuses like, "I want to play with friends," or "I have a lesson." I was anxious, but I wondered if it was really maternal to insist on meeting when my daughter didn't want to. For now, I continued working to earn a stable income that would satisfy Ned, hoping someday I could live with my child. I dreamed only of that and successfully saved money. However, as Christina entered middle school, she became busy with club activities and studying, and other reasons also increased, making it difficult to meet as often. I continued to pay child support while consistently saving for a life with Christina. I reached my limit. I might consider Christina's feelings, but I just wanted to see her, even if only for a moment. I wanted to talk. Reaching my limit, I called Ned. "Can't you make some time to match our schedules? I haven't seen her at all since she started middle school." "Hey, are you really using the child support for Christina? Not just for yourself? If I can't verify Christina's situation by meeting her, maybe I should consult the appropriate authorities. I know you and Christina are busy, but since it's only once a month, please match your schedule." After a pause, Ned said, "Okay. I'll check with Christina, so please wait." And with that, he ended the call that day. A few days later, after Christina's regular exams were over and there was a little time before her tutoring, I was told that we could meet at a nearby Western-style restaurant. I was genuinely looking forward to meeting Christina. It had been a long time since our last meeting. What would be a good gift for middle school-aged Christina? Just thinking about it made me excited. I worked hard for that day. On the day of the meetup, I arrived at the nearest station an hour earlier than the scheduled 2 p.m., nervously wandering around a nearby department store. The joy of seeing her after such a long time and wondering what to talk about with Christina, now a middle schooler, crossed my mind, along with the anxiety that maybe she didn't prioritize meeting over playing with friends. What if my daughter, now in her rebellious phase, reacted coldly unlike before? What if she just fiddled with her smartphone without any conversation? Should I say something about it? The more time I had, the more I thought about various things. I should have come just on time. I came too early. I regretted, and at 1:40 p.m. It's a bit early, but maybe it's okay to go now. At 1:45 p.m., 15 minutes before the scheduled time, I entered the restaurant where we were supposed to meet. A young part-time worker, apparently a waitress, with long hair covering her eyes, greeted me wearing a mask. "Welcome. I'm a bit early, but I have a meeting at 2 p.m. After I mentioned my own name and the names of Ned and Christina, the waitress said, "You are." And her face looked as if she was about to cry, then said, "Escape now. Quick, before you're found." Confused, I asked, "What do you mean? The person you think is your daughter isn't actually your child. She's Hannah, a child not related to you by blood." Not understanding what she was talking about, the waitress took me from the back door to the outside of the store. It might be hard to believe, but that child is Hannah. She's the child of Ned's current wife. I couldn't comprehend and said to the waitress, "When did he got remarried, didn't he?" It wouldn't be strange for him to have remarried over the many years. There's no obligation to report a marriage to an ex-wife. As I thought this, the waitress furrowed her eyebrows tightly, closed her eyes, and then looked at me determinedly with a resolved gaze. "Did you know that Ned was having an affair while you were married?" "What?" It was shocking. That person, who was always so attached to his mother, that he had time for an affair. At the same time, I doubted whether what this girl was saying was true. As I chose my words, she pressed on. "It seems he was seeing someone else even before he met you. After you divorced, Ned quickly married his affair partner. Hannah is now in high school. So, she is the child born from Ned's affair. The Hannah you've been meeting these past few years isn't your daughter." I needed time to process everything in my mind. Various pieces of information were swirling around. An affair. The child is Hannah, not my daughter Christina. Then where is my daughter? Confused, I asked her. "How do you know such private details?" "Hannah is a senior coworker here at this store. She bragged about how she and her father have been deceiving you all along. She also told me about Ned's affair and how you've been foolishly paying child support for a daughter that isn't yours." At the waitress's last remark, I wiped away a tear. Deceived, I thought about what I should do next and quickly left through the store's back door. I made a phone call, and after a 10-minute wait, I went with the arriving police officer to confront Ned and Hannah. I had called the police to report a fraud, saying that the perpetrator was here and that they needed to come quickly. Once again, I headed toward the store's entrance, this time not alone but with a police officer. The store employee who greeted us was surprised to see a police officer. Unlike the previous waitress, this one had a name tag labeled manager. I explained the situation and approached the table where Ned and Hannah were waiting. Ned, who was irritated by my absence at the scheduled time, came towards me, about to direct his anger, but his eyes swiftly moved to the police officer beside me, and his expression changed to one of surprise. I spoke as if nothing was wrong. "Sorry to keep you waiting." What's going on? Did something happen?" Ned was clearly flustered. "I just wanted to check something, with the help of the police." Ned looked at Hannah, then silently gestured for me to sit down. The police officer stood in a position where he could see me, Ned, and Hannah. "So, I would like to ask." Before the police officer could continue, I cut in. "Who is this child? Is she really mine?" My patience had run out, and I confronted Ned with everything I had heard, even as the police officer intervened. Hannah kept her head down throughout. "That's just a made-up story. This child is yours, isn't it, Christina?" Hannah nodded with a charming smile and called me Mom. "Could you please show us your daughter's student ID?" The police officer asked calmly. Both Ned and Hannah's faces turned visibly pale, and they stumbled over their words. When the police officer kindly asked to see the student ID again, a tearful Hannah slowly pulled her wallet from her bag and took out her student ID. The student ID clearly displayed her high school name and Hannah. This child is not Christina. Seeing the student ID in front of me, I broke down crying. Why hadn't I noticed sooner? I had been feeling that my daughter's demeanor had changed a while ago. I read in a book that children's faces change as they grow, and it's natural for them to look different from when they were born. I had convinced myself of this, even though I had doubts because she didn't look much like me. On the other hand, she resembled Ned a lot, so I convinced myself she was just like her father. I didn't want to lose the chance to see her by voicing my suspicions to Ned. Tears of frustration and shame at not recognizing my own child flowed. Ned seemed resigned. He spoke up. Christina wanted to live with you. She kept saying, I want to see Mom, I want to see her. You always said you wanted to take her with you, and it seemed like if we put you together, she'd just go with you. Then I wouldn't get the monthly child support anymore. Even just $300 was a reliable income. I was stunned. You did this for money? Well, my mother's store was in trouble. This little money couldn't be used to rebuild the store, but it did help us live. But, sorry. I apologized, so we're good now, right? There's no way I can forgive you. Give me back the time with Christina. Ah, I get it. How much do you want? About $500? Don't joke with me. Saying you'd let me see my daughter and then bringing a stranger. I'll sue you for fraud. However, Ned's face visibly contorted at the mention of being sued. It's not like I stole anything, how could this be fraud? The child support was meant for the child. I used that money properly for her living expenses. And you didn't even realize Hannah wasn't your real daughter, yet you act all high and mighty. How can you say that to me? You might never see Christina again. Ned retorted defiantly, perhaps as a threat. His smug, grinning face only added to my dismay. I spoke clearly and confidently to Ned. It's okay. I've already met Christina. What? When did that happen? Ned slumped his shoulders. As if waiting for that voice, the waitress who had been watching from a distance approached. Ned looked at the waitress and his face paled even more. In fact, the young part-time waitress who had taken me to the back door was my daughter, Christina. When I was led to the back and heard about Hannah, the waitress with hair covering her eyes lifted her hair and removed her mask. I've been waiting for you, Mom. I'm Christina. What? The child I thought was my daughter was Hannah, and this waitress in front of me is Christina? My mind was in a panic. However, the girl who had removed her mask and lifted her hair looked somewhat like me. The height and hair texture were similar. But that was all. Before I could fully believe it, Christina took out her wallet and showed me her student ID from her pocket. It unmistakably had Christina's name on it. Is it really you, Christina? Yes, Mom. I've missed you. Saying that, Christina clung to me. Ah, this smell, this sensation. I remembered holding newborn Christina. The grown-up Christina was nothing like the baby she once was. However, as her mother, I had an inexplicable feeling that this clinging child was Christina. I hugged her tightly. We both cried. I asked Christina about the life she had been living. Christina, living under the roof of Ned and his family, was subjected to harsh conditions while working at the Western-style restaurant managed by her grandmother. The restaurant was struggling financially, leading the grandmother to skimp on labor costs by employing Christina as one of the staff. She was made to work every day and was given only a small daily wage late at night. Moreover, Christina was even charged for her meals and baths, having to pay for every basic necessity. Christina lived with her grandmother, Ned, Hannah, and Hannah's mother, enduring severe mistreatment. Hannah's behavior was particularly cruel. She mocked Christina, who couldn't leave the house, and continuously harassed her, reveling in her status as the favored child. Christina was never allowed to leave the house when I was nearby to ensure we never ran into each other accidentally. That's why she wasn't supposed to be at the store today. The only reason Christina was here today was because the restaurant was short-staffed due to an employee's illness, and she was called in by the manager, who was unaware of Christina's relation to Hannah. Moreover, the grandmother didn't know about today's scheduled visit. Christina didn't tell her grandmother and came to work pretending nothing was amiss. She took the initiative to manage the reception, planning to meet me. Ned was initially cursing at his mother but quickly changed his tune. "It's good that we met, right? So we're good now. It's not fraud since you met her." Calling the police was quite the effort. I sighed at his mocking laughter, but from here it was the police's job. The officer spoke to Ned and then approached the grandmother, who had come out from the back to see what was happening. "Is it true that you employed Christina and paid her a salary?" "Of course. I wasn't just making her work for nothing, I was paying her." "Isn't that kind of me?" "Is there a problem?" "I see. Christina, may we see your student ID, please?" Christina, surprised by the sudden request from the police, presented her student ID. It clearly listed her middle school and her name. The officer frowned deeply and told the grandmother and Ned that they needed to come to the station. Speaking softly, as if choosing his words carefully, he explained to the startled pair. "It's illegal to employ a 13-year-old middle school student. If it was unpaid household help, it might be different, but if you're paying her, doesn't that make her an employee? While it might be considered an allowance and not necessarily illegal, and while middle school students can be allowed to deliver newspapers, helping in a restaurant is a bit different. We'd like to hear more about this, so could you please come with us?" The two stood dumbfounded, and the officer slowly led them to the patrol car and drove away. Later, the grandmother and Ned were arrested under child abuse prevention laws. Whether Christina was indeed an employee was carefully investigated, but their daily treatment of her was flagrantly unlawful. When Ned was arrested, Hannah's mother apparently took her daughter and fled. They are now reportedly in divorce proceedings. With no adults left in Christina's home, I finally gained custody. Taking this opportunity, I rented a nice apartment where the two of us could live together. I try to leave work early to enjoy dinner with Christina. She's getting used to her new school, making friends, liking her teachers, and she joined the badminton club she wanted to try. She talks about all these things, and of course, about her studies. Math is really tough. "Mom, were you good at math?" When Christina asked, I responded. I was okay with math because I was a science major, but not so much with history. "Then can you help me with this part?" "Let me see. Here's how you solve this problem." While writing formulas in her notebook, I explained the steps to Christina. "Ah, I see. When you think about it that way, it makes sense. Thanks. I've always dreamed of this, having someone at home to explain things I didn't understand at school so I can brag to my friends the next day. I never had that before. From now on, I'm counting on you, Mom. These ordinary days bring tears of joy. While I regret the many years I couldn't be with her, I'm determined to ensure my daughter lives happily from now on. For now, I just want to enjoy our newfound life together after so many years apart."